The third of the 10 commandments is the commandment of Leisisa as Hashem Melikecha Lashav, and that is, do not take the name of God in vain. And the Torah goes on to say that for God will not absolve anyone that does take his name in vain. To understand this commandment on 5 levels, Pshat, the simple level, and Remez, the hint, and Drush, and the homiletics, and Soy, the esoteric, and also the level of Chassidus. What is the meaning, the plain meaning of this mitzvah, of this commandment? So the Rambam tells us that there are 4 basic oaths that go into this prohibition of Leisisa. In other words, do not take my name in vain, and therefore do not swear the following. Number 1 is, do not swear that something which is obvious, obviously a stone or a pillar made of shayish, a pillar made of marble, and you swear, I swear that this is a pillar made out of gold. Everybody knows this is marble, everybody knows this is stone, and you're taking an oath before the entire world that this is made out of gold. That's the first prohibition. The second prohibition and the second oath is not to swear on something that is obvious and undisputed. In other words, I swear right now in the name of God that this table is a table. Or I swear in the name of God that this car is a car. Or I swear in the name of God that this wood table is actually wood and not something else. This is undisputed. Nobody's arguing here. We are simply using the name of God in vain. The third type of shavua, which is using the name of God in vain, the third type of oath, is levatel mitzvah, which means that you swear that you're not going to do the mitzvah. According to Torah law, you have to do this mitzvah. There are 613 mitzvahs that God gave us on Sinai. And all of us took an oath on Sinai that we are going to uphold the Torah. So now you come along and you say, I swear in the name of God, I'm not going to keep Shabbos. I swear in the name of God, I'm not going to keep kosher. That oath is called an oath in vain, because already you preceded this oath with the oath of Sinai. The fourth type of oath, says the Rambam, that goes into this category of do not take my name in vain, is an oath that is impossible to do. For example, you say, I swear by the name of God, I will not sleep for 3 days straight. It's impossible. A human being cannot stay up for 3 days straight. He's going to have to fall asleep sometime within the 3 days. It's impossible. So that oath is called an oath in vain. Or you take an oath, I swear in the name of God that I will not eat any food or drink any water for the next 7 days straight. It's an oath in vain. It's impossible. So these are the 4 different types of oaths that go into this category of Shavuas Shav, a oath that one takes in vain. And by doing so, you are violating this commandment, the third commandment of God, and that is Leisisa, do not take the name of God in vain. This is the simple interpretation. This is the pshat of this passage. What is the remez? What is the hint to this passage? The hint is that God also made an oath. God made an oath to our forefathers. And we say this every day in the Shema. God said, I promise you that I will give you the land of Israel. As we say in the Shema, Leman yirbu yimechem v'mei v'nechem al ha'adama. Asher nishba Hashem la'aviseichem l'ses lahem. That God promised your forefathers that He will give them the land of Israel, and to His children afterwards. And we know that King David tells us in the book of Psalms that Tachas avisecha yiyu banecha, that the children will take the place of the fathers, especially based on the laws of inheritance. the child stands in the place of the father. And therefore, the remez, the hint of do not take my name in vain, God too has to uphold his oath. And that is to make sure that every Jew will return to the land of Israel. And even the Jews today that are living in the land of Israel, being that there is not yet the Holy Temple, and there are enemies that are still trying, God forbid, to undermine the land of Israel, we don't have that ultimate security and peace. So this is the oath that God promises us, and this is the remez, the hint in the third commandment. Then we have the drush. Drush is the homiletics. The Kli Yakar asks a question, and he says, why is it, when it comes to this commandment, do not carry the name of God in vain, do we find the terminology of that God will not absolve anyone? Why do we find this terminology that God will not absolve? What's so terrible about this commandment, or by violating this commandment? And he goes on to say, and he quotes from the Talmud in Shavuos, page 39, side A, that when God gave the third commandment, do not take my name in vain, it says that the entire world at that time trembled. The entire world was trembling when God said, do not take my name in vain. And the question is, why was the whole world trembling? What happened here? What was the novelty of this commandment? So the answer is, says the Talmud, that normally when a person sins, God punishes that person for his sin. However, when it comes to this commandment, which is not to take the name of God in vain, then the punishment is, not only does that person himself get punished for the sin, but by taking the name of God in vain, you cause the entire world to suffer, the entire world to be punished. And that's why it makes sense that when God said this commandment, the entire world trembled. Because if one person takes the name of God in vain, swears in God's name in vain, the entire world will suffer the consequences. And therefore, he goes on to give a mashal, he gives a parable, and he says, why is that so? He says, for example, we have a tree, and the tree has many branches. If you want to lift up the tree, or the root of the tree, not only are you lifting up the root, or the main part of the tree, but you're also lifting up, together with this trunk, you're also lifting up all the branches together. And therefore, the same is here, when loy sisa literally means do not lift up. Do not lift up the name of God in vain. When you're lifting up the name of God, you're also lifting up all the branches. And therefore the entire world is affected and infected by this violation of the commandment. And perhaps we can take it a step further and say that, why is it so that when you use the name of God in vain, it affects the entire world? And the answer is because God created the entire world with his name. As it says in the Zohar, that the letter that God used to create the world was the letter Hey. God went Ha. And from the Ha came forth the entire world. The Ha was from the letter Hey of God's name. So here the entire world is created with the letters of God's name, and you come along and you are going to desecrate this name by using the name in vain. If that is the case, it affects the entire world. The next level is Soid. Soid is the esoteric level. And I begin to explain this with a teaching that I heard from my grandfather, Rabbi Jacob J. Hechter, blessed memory, and he said like this: what is the meaning of do not carry or use the name of God in vain? And he said like this, that upon each one of us is the name of God. God creates every Jew with part of God. As it says, that every Jew is part of God, and God blew into our nostrils from his essence, and he gave us life. So really, we are carrying the name of God. and therefore do not carry the name of God in vain. God gives you potential, He gives you blessing. Use this in a productive manner. So therefore the concept of leisisa is more of a broad commandment. Not only for an oath, but rather for everything that we do. We are carrying the name of God upon us. And this is clearly understood or supported by a teaching of the Rebbe Marash. And he says that in the soul of every Jew, we have the four-letter name of God. And in the human body of every Jew, we find the four-letter name of God. Because the four-letter name of God is the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey. The Yud is a dot. This represents Chokhmah, the idea of a concept, an idea. And then the Hey is an expansive letter, representing the idea of Bina, understanding, taking this idea and developing it. And then you have the letter Vav of God's name, which represents the 6 midos. For Vav has the gematria of 6, alluding to a person's emotions. And then the final Hey represents speech. Just like God created the world with the Hey, with the Ha, so too we have the Ha, the Hey, which gives us the breath of our speech. That is the soul of every Jew. Then the physical body is also an imprint and a signature of God. We have the head, which is like the letter Yud, the small letter. Then we have the torso, the main part of the body, that's the Vav of God's name. And then we have the Hey. The Hey is the gematria of 5. We have 5 fingers. If you spell out Hey, it's Hey, Hey. So we have one Hey representing the 2 fingers, the 2 hands of 10 fingers. And then we have the other Hey representing the fingers of our toes. And there too we have Hey and Hey representing the 10 different fingers. So this is the name of God that is imprinted and signatured upon every human being. And therefore, leisisa Hashem akecha l'shav. Do not carry this name of God in vain. Realize that you have a purpose in this world to make the world a better place and to bring the message of peace and tranquility and the message of God to the entire world. We are l'or goyim, a light unto all the nations of the world. Therefore, do not carry this name of God in vain. And then we have the 5th level, which is Chassidus. And to understand this, we first have to understand the 3 different type of oaths that are connected with the performance of a mitzvah. We find, on one hand, we are told that we took an oath on Sinai. And therefore, because we took an oath on Sinai, we are obligated to fulfill all the 613 commandments of the Torah. That's the first oath. Then we have a second oath. And that is, as the Talmud tells us, before a child is born, an angel takes an oath with the child and tells the soul of this child, take an oath, Tihi tzaddik v'al tihi rasha. You shall be righteous and you shall not be wicked. Every oath, every child takes this oath. That's the second oath. And then we have a third oath. And that is called an oath for mitzvahs. And that is sometimes we feel we need a little bit of encouragement. We are weak, we are shvach when it comes to a certain mitzvah. So we take an oath that from now on I'm going to daven every day. From now on I'm going to give tzedakah every day. And this oath gives us encouragement, and this oath gives us strength. Now in truth, when it comes to the oath of the mitzvah, the Gemara asks a question. How can you take an oath to do a mitzvah? We already took an oath on Sinai to do all the mitzvahs. And you cannot take another oath on top of a previous oath. So you can't have 2 oaths for one mitzvah. We already established the oath. So the Gemara says, in truth, this oath is only to encourage us. Now what does that mean? So what is the difference between these 3 different oaths? First of all, 2 of them were done compulsory. 2 of them were done against our will. In other words, at Sinai we were told we have to take the oath, and before the soul leaves the body we take the oath. The third oath is done voluntarily. If we decide we want to take an oath, we can do it. If not, we don't have to. But there's also a difference between the first and second oath, and that is the difference between the oath at Sinai and also the oath that we take before birth. Because in essence, why are we taking two oaths? If we took an oath at Sinai, why do we need an oath at birth? Or if we took an oath at birth, why do we need the oath at Sinai? So one answer is that the oath on Sinai is only an oath for the actual mitzvah. The actual mitzvah we are obligated to do. But we don't take an oath for hidur mitzvah. Hidur mitzvah means when we go beyond the letter of the law. If we want to beautify the mitzvah. For example, Friday night, a woman lights one candle. If you want to do hidur, you should light 2 candles. And for each child, you light an additional candle. But the minimal is 1 candle. So Sinai, we took an oath for the minimal obligation of the mitzvah. And similarly, a man puts on 1 pair of tefillin. That's an oath. That's the minimal. If you want to do hidur, you want to go beyond the letter of the law, you put on 2 pair of tefillin. Similarly, the laws of the rabbis, the 7 laws of the rabbis, to light the Hanukkah candles, to hear the Megillah, to wash your hands before you eat. These are also additional mitzvahs. This is not part of the oath. So therefore, we take an additional oath right before the child comes into the world. I will be a tzaddik, I will not be wicked. To be a tzaddik means you have to be perfect. And you have to do everything right. And you go even beyond the letter of the law. That's the meaning of a tzaddik. And furthermore, not to be a rasha, not to be wicked, based on the explanation of the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, this means that one is not a wicked person. He has no sin whatsoever. If that's the case, you really have to go beyond the letter of the law and do everything perfectly, including the laws of the rabbis, so that you fulfill this oath properly. There's another difference between these 2 oaths, and that is the oath of Sinai is revealed. Everybody knows about it. We stood at Sinai. We said, Naaseh v'nishma, we will do and we will listen. But the oath that takes place in the womb of the mother is something that not everybody knows about. And therefore doesn't have the same strength. What does that mean, doesn't have the same strength? On this oath, we have the right to say, I take another oath. The individual can take an oath to do the rabbinic mitzvah. Because this oath is concealed. It's something which is not revealed. So, why is it that on one hand, the oath that we take in the womb of the mother includes everything from the practical mitzvah to the hidur mitzvah, to beautifying the mitzvah, and even the mitzvahs of the rabbis. On the other hand, is hidden. Nobody knows about it. So to understand this comes Chassidus and says, what is the meaning of an oath? What is the purpose of an oath? And furthermore, how many of us remember the oath we took before we left the womb of our mother? So comes along Chassidus and says like this, the meaning of an oath, the word shavua, etymologically speaking, means soiveya, which means to satiate. By the fact that soul takes an oath, the oath is now satiating the soul with the ability to fulfill all its obligations and all its responsibilities. And furthermore, this oath reveals to the soul that the soul is really one with God. And because it's one with God, therefore it's expected to do everything perfectly. Just like God is perfect and God permeates every aspect of reality. Therefore, this oath reminds us that every detail of reality must be permeated with holiness, and that is by the fact that we don't only do the requirement, the minimal requirement of the mitzvah, but that we do even the details of the mitzvah, even the mitzvahs of the rabbis. even the mitzvahs that are beyond the letter of the law. However, because this mitzvah or this oath comes from such a high place, it comes from a place that unites the soul of man with God, it's a level beyond time and space. It's a level that's beyond revelation. And therefore, this oath is not something which is revealed, but rather it's concealed. Comes along a person who feels a lack of desire to do a mitzvah, or the fact that he feels incompetent to do the mitzvah. He now takes an oath to do this mitzvah. He now takes an oath to perfect the mitzvah and to go beyond the letter of the law. This is not a new oath, because you cannot take an oath and apply it to a previous oath. But rather, this oath reveals the true essential state of the soul, that the soul is one with God. And the soul is satiated by God. And the soul has the power to fulfill God's mission in this world in every aspect of reality. So these are the 5 levels of oath. Number 1, pshat, which are the 4 details of taking an oath, not on something which is obvious and undisputed. Number 2, we have the remez, the hint that God has to fulfill His oath and bring about the coming of Mashiach and restoring the land of Israel to the Jewish people. Number 3, the drush, which is the kliyakar, that the entire world trembles when one takes an oath. And that's why today Jews do not take oaths. We don't say the name of God when we take an oath. We simply affirm. Because unfortunately we don't understand the value and the holiness of an oath. And then we have the concept of sod, which reminds us that we carry the name of God always. And finally, the 5th level of chassidus, that this oath is an oath that every one of us takes, and this oath gives us the power and the stamina to be able to fulfill our mission here in this world. A story is told in the name of the Chafetz Chaim. It's a mashal, it's a parable that he gave. And he said like this, that in a town there was a rabbi by the name of Rabbi Baruch. And Rabbi Baruch not only was the rabbi of the town, but he was also the wealthy man in the town. And he helped everybody that needed help. Furthermore, there was a famous poor man in the town, because every town has the famous rich man, and every town has the famous poor man. So you had the poor man, Shlomo. Shlomo was the poor man. So one day, 7 o'clock in the morning, Shlomo calls the rabbi. He says, "Rabbi, you know, how are you doing?" He says, "Yeah." "How's your family?" "Fine." How's your health?" "Okay." The rabbi says, "Shlomo, what's happening? What's wrong?" He says, "You know, Rabbi, I have a daughter, and she's about to get married. We have no money for the wedding." "Oh, how much money do you need?" "I need 300 rubles. 300 rubles, no problem. Come over tomorrow, 12 o'clock, I'll give you the rubles." All right. He waits for Rab Shlomo to come over at 12 o'clock. He doesn't show up. He's figuring maybe he's a few minutes late. A man is coming for a loan and he knows I'm giving it to him without any problem. For sure he would be on time. Maybe he got stuck, maybe something happened. He waits 12:05, 12:10, 12:15. He's not there. All right, so Rab Shlomo didn't show up, and therefore the rabbi goes home. The next morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, Rab Shlomo calls the rabbi. He says, "Rabbi, how are you? How are you doing? How are things? How's the family?" He says, "Oh, Shlomo, I was waiting for you yesterday to show up, and I was worried about you." He says, "Yeah, I know, I'm sorry." He says, "Maybe I can come today." "Sure. You'll come today at 12 o'clock. Again, I'll give you the check." Okay. 12 o'clock shows up. However, Rab Shlomo does not show up. He's waiting 12:05 and 12:10 and 12:15. Rab Shlomo is not there. He figured something must have happened for sure now. The house must have burned down. Maybe he broke his leg, God forbid. Maybe he got an attack. Who knows? Maybe he's in the hospital. How could it be 2 days in a row he didn't show up? All right. The next morning, again, 7 o'clock in the morning, Shlomo calls the rabbi. Says, Rabbi, how are you? How are you feeling? How are you doing? Now the rabbi says, hey, this guy Shlomo, he's a real meshugana. He's really nuts. That's the parable that the Chafetz Chaim gives. What's the message of the parable? The message of the parable is every morning we get up in the morning, we say, Moida ani lefanecha. The first thing we say in the morning when we get up is not good morning, dear, but the first thing is we say, thank you, God, for returning my soul. By saying thank God for returning my soul, in essence we're saying is, thank you, God, for satiating me with the ability to be able to conquer another day, to be able to make this day different, to make the world a better place, to make my mark on humanity. And that's the blessing and the prayer that we say every morning when we get up. In the meantime, you get up and then you brush your teeth and you put on your shoes and you have breakfast and you forget to go to shul and you forget to study Torah and you forget to give charity and you go to work and you don't really do too many great things. The next day again you say, Moidani. God, thank you for giving my soul. I can make a change in the world. I can make the world a better place. I could holy your name. And then again, you get up and you brush your teeth and you tie your shoes and you eat breakfast and you forget to go to shul on the way. You forget to study Torah. You forget to give charity. And, it's a plain old day. You didn't really do too much in the office. And then we realize that we're really crazy. We're meshugana. Why? Because God says, I'll give you the loan. God says, I'm giving you the strength. Just come and ask for it and take it. Just show up. So in the morning we ask God to give us the strength, and yet we don't use it out for the proper reasons, for the proper things. So therefore we are told, Leisisa Hashem Hashem Elikecha Lashav. Remember, the entire world trembled, because our job is to change the entire world. One mitzvah, says the Rambam, one good deed that we do, we can truly tip the scale to salvation and bring blessing and remedy and peace for all humankind.